Celebration's specialty is helping people with Florida bar exam. Jackson has a lot of good knowledge about it, and he will help you conquer the demons in your own head about the Florida bar exam, which is very important. That's why I used you. I really feel like you build a personal relationship with us as your students. And that's something that big boxes can't do. You always answer. When I email you, you respond that same day within hours sometimes. Really appreciate that. And I think other practicing attorneys will too. You're always there as a lifeline.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Takers. And today we have a special treat because this is someone that not only passed the bar this last July, but she actually has passed another bar and study with Celebration a few years ago. Julie, it's good to see you again back here in the hot seat. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back here in the hot seat because that means I made it through.
Yeah, you did. You first connected with us to take the UBE in Hawaii a few years ago. Is that right? Am I remembering that correctly?
You are. I had used one of the big box bar preps and found it just didn't work for me. I didn't pass the bar by 2 points. And then I switched over to you, but I didn't listen to you on the writing. And so I did not pass it the second time, but the third time I listened to you and passed it.
That's right. And you did a wonderful interview that I know has influenced and inspired a lot of people. And I was just saying before we started, I think the photo that we used for that might have been a picture of you in a wedding dress on a big, long stairway. Am I remembering that correctly?
Possibly. I'd have to look.
Then after having passed and become a member of the bar, what caused you to want to come to Florida and then sit for another bar exam?
I believe COVID had a big part to play in it. My husband was really sick of being locked down in Hawaii. Our kids all live on the mainland now. So we decided to move, and Pensacola is one of the other places where he can find work in his field. He works with the Department of the Navy. And so here we are. Initially, I did not want to come here because Florida doesn't let you waive in, and I would have to take another bar exam, but I got persuaded, and my Hawaii law firm has allowed me to work remotely this whole time. So I've been practicing law while trying to study for the bar.
And that's a different experience, isn't it? Because I know when you sat for Hawaii, I think you're doing some real estate work. Am I remembering that properly?
That's correct.
Yeah.
You-
And so this time, what was it like to try and work, have an active practice, study for the bar, take care of your family? It's a lot to do, isn't it?
It was too much. I took it in February, and I have a big load at the office. I have billable hours that I have to hit, and I didn't cut any of that down and tried to study at the same time. So I was no fun to live with. My husband, I think, has PTSD because now still when he comes home, he won't turn the television on or anything. And he keeps saying, I forget you're not studying anymore. So I was no fun. It was very stressful. And I always felt like I was not quite doing enough. So
And
when I did pass in February, I think I missed February by 2 points again overall, but I passed the Florida part. So I decided to cut my hours down to part-time at the law firm while I was studying for the bar exam. And I think that really made a difference because I had to take part B over. All I did was practice questions and listen to your MBE lectures. And I
you're
think
probably pretty sick of my voice by now. Huh?
I can recognize your voice anywhere.
That's right. That's right. Walking through the airport. Wait, I know that guy. That's right. But you had a remarkable jump in your multi-state score. You want to tell us about that?
I was surprised. I was waiting to get a call from the Florida board saying, did you cheat or something? Because I think it was 8 points that I jumped on.
18 points.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so I'll tell you what I did, and you're going to be mad again. So when I took it in February, I did not listen to my intuition, which is what you tell us to do. I did not answer a question and then leave it and forget about it. I wrote down the number of all the questions I was unsure of. Then I went back because I had time and overthought them all and probably changed right answers to wrong answers. This time, I did not do that. And that is the difference in my score.
Yeah. And you got a terrific score. You went up to a 149, which I think you're right. The bar examiners probably looked at that jump because an 18-point scale jump is a huge jump on the multi-state. And you would attribute it this time to being more intentional about selective intuition and using that and not changing answers. Is that right?
I do. And I think that once you do so many multiple choice practice questions, you start to get a feel for what they're looking for. Because they word those so weirdly sometimes. But I did so many of them that I could start to see the pattern in the question and figure out what trick they were using or what they're really looking for. Because they're not very well worded a lot of the times. And I
Yeah.
just think being able to recognize how they write the questions and then figure out what is probably the best answer and don't go back and look at it again.
We call that selective intuition. And our goal is to have you answer questions in about 90 seconds. And that is, as you're saying, Julie, not to go back and change them after you've marked down your answer. When you left the room on Wednesday after having done the MBE again, did you have a sense that you had performed better this time?
No, I've never had been able to tell, but I did know I had an hour and a half left. So I finished early. I did not let myself worry about that and think maybe you didn't read correctly. I knew I had done my best. It felt like I left it all in that room. And whether I passed or not, I felt that I couldn't do any more than I had done.
Yeah.
I cut down my work hours. I had done so many questions that I was starting to memorize the answers.
Yeah, absolutely. And did it freak them out a little bit at the test site when you were done with an hour and a half to go?
There were a handful of us done, not many.
Yeah, it's a nice feeling to say, "Yeah, I'm done." And then
Yes, not
there's a
many.
bar in Tampa called Jackson's, which I think is just appropriate, and that's where I think people should go after the exam. But in any event, it's got to be weird to get back in and take the bar exam and balance that all out when you think, "Yeah, I'm done. I don't have to do this again." How did you emotionally get yourself up for this process of studying and then having to restudy a second time?
Oh, boy. I really didn't want to, but I told myself I was gonna do this one more time, and that was it. And whatever the outcome was, I was doing it one more time. So, I think having to do it more than once in Hawaii helped, and I had to take the win that I had passed the Florida portion because I know that's the half that hangs up a lot of people. And the first few days, I could not see any win about it. But after a while, I began to see the win because I actually liked the MBE portion better than the essay portion. So at least I didn't have to do that. I started changing my outlook a little bit and deciding what I needed to do to give myself the best shot at it because this was going to be my last time doing it. It's quite expensive to take the bar, especially when I don't live near Tampa. I had to fly. The hotels around there are expensive during the bar exam time. So I feel like every time I took it, it was a $3,000 proposition.
Yeah, it's a lot, and obviously in Florida, their goal is to keep dilettantes and hobbyists out. You gotta really be serious and committed. It's quite an experience, isn't it? Coming from Hawaii, which is pretty laid back, even in terms of the bar, to the environment in Tampa with the security and the pat down and 3,000 people and so on. It would shock you a little bit, the difference between the 2 states.
It was crazy going in there, and I thought to myself, "I know what they're doing, so I'm not going to let this phase me." But I think that comes from a level of maturity and already practicing as an attorney and being in stressful situations. I think that they have that process to set people up for bad mindset when you walk into the room. So my advice would be don't let them win on that. Don't let it get to you. You're just going through one of the steps they make you go through. The real test is when you get into the room and get your exam. If you can go in there with the mindset of none of this is bothering me. And what I find helpful is I don't know anyone else taking the bar exam. So there was no freaking each other out about it in line. I read people were standing in line with their notes, still trying to cram and study and grill each other. I would recommend not doing that. Just sit there and get into a nice, happy, as you can be,
Yeah,
calm
yeah.
mindset. Say some prayers if you believe in God, which I do. It's all in his hands. You're going to do your best. It's all in his hands.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the right approach to take and the attitude to take. We often say to people, it's good to get licensed, take the UBE, and then if you feel like you got to come to Florida or California or Georgia, do it. But now you're a licensed attorney. Did that have any impact in your mindset? I already have a bar license. I'm working. I've got a firm in Hawaii. Did it take some pressure off of you or not?
It did, but my ultimate goal was to be able to work in a firm here in Florida because I don't really like working remotely. I like to do the whole dress in a suit and go into the office thing, which I know makes me strange these days, but that was my goal. And we moved here without really knowing anyone. So I wanted to expand my social circle a little bit. So that was my ultimate goal. It was embarrassing more than anything else to not pass it on the first try. I was afraid my law firm was going to think I was dumb now, but they didn't.
And the Florida bar is like the second hardest bar exam in the country after California. So it's no mark of dishonor to come just short. I agree with you that getting part A, the Florida day, done and out of the way is a big help, right? You took what you had learned about writing from before from the UBE, and I assume you applied it in the Florida essays, correct?
I did because it had been so long since I've written in law school style that I don't even remember how to do that. I write a lot of opinion letters and general matter assignments where I'm explaining to clients what the law is and they're presenting me with a problem, using the law to explain what they can and can't do, and drawing the conclusion. So I do that writing now every day, which is the kind of writing that you teach us to do.
And it pays off, right? You get through that, and it makes more sense than just memorizing and reciting. And then when you get to the multiple choice, whether it's Florida or MBE, memorizing doesn't really help, does it?
No, you can't. You can't memorize it. There's too much. If you try to do that, you're going to drive yourself crazy. I think the important thing in Florida for people on the Florida portion with the essays, read what they're actually asking you. I heard so many people talking after that exam about things they were writing that were not even relevant to the question being asked because they were trying to spew out everything they knew about the topic. But they're not looking for that in the Florida bar exam. They're really looking for their specific answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's real wisdom. And I hope people take that to heart as they're listening to you talk. Let's talk just real briefly. When the results came out in Florida, of course, they released them on the website, and it's a complete cluster because the website generally breaks down and things go bad. But when you finally got your result, tell us about that moment.
You're right. I was trying to check it for probably 30 minutes and it kept crashing right before I got to the point where I could see my result. But this time I had an extra letter that I didn't have the other time in my queue, although I couldn't open it. So I was pretty sure that was something different and maybe I had passed. So when I finally saw it, I think I was shocked by my score and I had to go compare. What did I get last time? How is it so much higher? And then I was worried that they were going to call me and I thought, I can absolutely tell them what I did differently, so I'm not worried about that. But to be honest, it's a mixed thing because week before I got my bar results, my husband got a job offer with NATO in Belgium. So I may not be practicing with my license in Florida now.
But you're not going to let go of it. You'll keep it
I'm
active.
not going to go if that would.
Yeah, absolutely. Belgium, that would be interesting. Talk about remote practice, right? We do get Europeans that come to the US to take the exam. It hardly ever goes the other way, but it's
Yeah.
very exciting. It's got to be a great moment. Your husband, I'm sure, was very proud of you and excited for you when you got through this, right?
He was. I got him a present. It's a sticker that he put on his laptop that says, I survived my wife's bar exam.
Oh, perfect. We'll have to get a coffee mug that says that. Get him that. That's wonderful. I know that there are people out there, practicing attorneys, who have to come to Florida. They don't want to take the exam, obviously, but this is the rules in this state. What would you say to somebody who's considering sitting for the Florida bar exam and their license somewhere else?
I would say don't underestimate the difficulty of it and make sure your work schedule will allow you enough time to prepare. Because I didn't do that the first time around and I missed it by 2 points, and there's nothing more agonizing. You don't want to have to repeat this experience. Stop it and review the topics you were weak in. We identified my 2 weak topics, but luckily I had improved them enough to get over the line.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very proud to have been with you on this journey, not once, but twice. What would you tell somebody that's considering Celebration Bar Review versus maybe one of the big box courses to sit for the exam?
I tell so many people, anybody who I know is taking it that's working. The big boxes are designed for a 22-year-old who just graduated law school and has all summer to prepare and is not doing anything else. That's not you. I would listen to lectures while I was running in the morning before work, listen in the car when I had an appointment. It's easy to stay on top of the lessons and not get behind, in spite of the fact that there's still a lot of hours required, but it's so portable and designed more for people who have other things going on in their lives.
That's great. Thank you very much. We certainly appreciate your vote of confidence. We appreciate you coming back to us a second time for another jurisdiction and sharing your story with our audience today. I think there'll be a lot of licensed attorneys watching this going, okay, this scares me, but I can do it, right? And you just jump in.
The Florida bar exam is a big hurdle. They want it to scare you. Celebration's specialty is helping people with Florida bar exam. Jackson has a lot of good knowledge about it, and he will help you conquer the demons in your own head about the Florida bar exam, which is very important. That's why I used you, and we had such a good rapport from last time. I really feel like you build a personal relationship with us as your students, and that's something that the big boxes can't do. You always answer when I email you, you respond that same day within hours sometimes. I really appreciate that. And I think other practicing attorneys will too. You're always there as a lifeline.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it. It's nice to know that my email obsession is appreciated. I know my staff goes, "Geez, would you just relax and let us answer?" No, it's me. So that's great, Julie. I'm so proud of you. I'm delighted. This is always fun when we see people come back and have success in other jurisdictions. From Belgium, could be interesting to see what happens next. I'm sure it'll be an adventure for you and your husband. But wish you the very best with that. And thank you so much for sharing your journey with our audience. We know that a lot of people are going to appreciate that. Julie, it's great to see you. Please stay in touch. We wish you all the best. And again, congratulations on Florida bar passage. It's a big deal, and you did it. 2 for 2, Hawaii and now Florida. Not bad places. There you go. And to all of you in our audience, thanks for being with us today. We appreciate it. We'll be back soon with another story of a successful bar taker. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.